big g'day and welcome to another cracking edition of the RDFNL Footy Show. Thanks to Ontime Delivery Solutions. Looking ahead to the upcoming round of RDFNL Senior Football. My name's Yeendy. I'm joined by Tara Murray. Things are really starting to shape up as we head towards the back end of the season.
It is, and I think we start to see some of the sides at the top of the ladder facing each other. So we'll get a true indication of where these teams are sort of sitting, and the ladder will sort of sort itself out as well.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got a pretty strong ladder as well. We've got two of last year's finalists, Sunbury Kangaroos and Romsey, not sitting in the top six, and we've got those who narrowly missed out in the form of Wallen and Wood and Heskett starting to really make their claims. And I guess the upside for those two clubs is that we've got Wallen, who's undefeated, and we've got Wood and Heskett, who have only dropped a handful of games, and they don't look like dropping away anytime soon.
Look, I think obviously most people were shocked Wallen didn't make finals last year, so
none more so than they were too.
Exactly. So they only just missed out in the end. I think it was percentage in the end. So that I expected them to be up there and one of the better sides. They keep adding players, and they're one club that has a lot of depth. So all those players have started to gel after having 12 months together, so that makes a big difference there. While Wood and Heskett's probably the biggest improver in the competition, so that doesn't come as a surprise to me. They've added a few players, and they've got players fit on the park. That's probably been the thing that's been the struggle for them the last couple of years. They've had the list, but they've just had injuries that haven't helped them, and now they're starting to show the results. And they knocked off Diggers Rest last week, which is probably their biggest win for the club in a number of years.
Speaking of teams that probably need to bounce back with a vengeance, we've got Melton Centrals playing host to Lancefield. If Centrals are any chance on making finals, and I believe they've got the capacity to do so, if things fall their way and they start getting some big wins, they're up against Lancefield. They need to put on a good polished performance.
Look, I'm expecting Melton Centrals to win this easy. Besides one match this season, they've been in every single game. So they've tested some of your top sides like your Wallens and your Riddles. So they have been really good, but they just haven't necessarily got over the line. So they've got the 2 wins, but then they're probably disappointing last week as well. So you've got that really good side, at times a young side, so they've got their home ground, and I expect them to win. And I know Matt Sproul will be pretty happy that I've actually tipped Centrals this week. He does pick on me for not picking Centrals enough, but I think they'll quite easily get over the line. Yeah,
it definitely will. They'll definitely do that with great confidence there. Another important game, this is the match of the round, and of course if you're heading over there, make sure you listen to OKR FM from the early stages of the afternoon to catch this one. We've got Wallen and Rupert's Wood. This is the battle of the two Titans, the match of the season to date on paper.
It is. This is a match we've probably been wanting to see. This is probably a true indication of where Wallen sits. I think everyone sort of had an idea where Rupert's Wood would be, and everyone expected them to be. They were premiership favourites pre-season, and they're still sort of showing they are. Where this is probably the biggest test for both these sides. The Magpies to say, okay, yep, this is where we're at. We're really up there. And for the Sharks to test themselves against a good side. They've already played Diggers Rest and did get the win, and Macedon as well. So they've played those couple of sides where I think this is an even bigger test. The Magpies are in brilliant form.
There's one word you've mentioned over the course of this week, not only in this show, but earlier on in the week, is that you mentioned depth. You mentioned Rupert's Wood earlier on in the week that they had incredible depth, and you mentioned that Wallen has depth. Just not just at senior level, but filtering down through the reserves and under-19s. This is where the future of the competition is, right here in this game here.
Exactly, and it's not just the depth of the players playing seniors, reserves and under-19s. It's also across the squad. Both of these sides have a range of goal kickers. Obviously, you've got your stars like
true.
Sam Rex Heppy for Wallen, he's probably their gun, and Todd Pottlesack for Rupert's Wood. But they've got a spread of goal kickers. They've got guys who can pop up with 2-3 goals and switch from ends to the ground. So it's going to be a hard one to pick. I've tipped Rupert's Wood, but I think these are two very, very good sides, and they're both pretty evenly spread as well.
I think I've backed Wallen to win this one, and I do that with a little bit of confidence as well, because I just like what's happening behind the scenes. But I mean, the stage is set. There's no reason why this can't be the biggest game of the year at the final game of the year as well. We could be seeing a preview of what we could be seeing here, but that's and I think it's a full credit to how Wallen and Rupert's would have really built themselves over the past few seasons.
Yeah, and I agree. I think these two sides will go deep into finals and could quite easily be a grand final. The way the sides have played, they've probably got some weaknesses at this point, but they've got a lot of time to work on it, and they're still getting the wins no matter what they're doing. So, yeah, definitely a really good match to see where both sides are at.
Yep, exactly right. They're Broadford. They play host to Wood and Heskett. This is a big game for the Roos because they didn't have the greatest performance. They'll be wanting to hit the scoreboard at home and hopefully just get some excitement around the club again.
Exactly. I think the first thing is to hit the scoreboard, obviously, after going scoreless last week. But they face a tough opposition. So Wood and Heskett are flying at the moment, and there is a lot of confidence in that club. We saw a few weeks ago when they played Rockbank, they absolutely put them to the sword. So I'm expecting to see a similar performance again. If Wood End want to play finals, they need to be beating these lower sides by big margins as some of these other clubs, as Wallen and Rupert's Wood and that are sort of doing. So they've got to do the same as well.
12 months ago, when these two teams faced off, Wood and Heskett they were sort of in the mix of playing finals, and Broadford were a much better performer. Now, fast track to now, and Broadford have dropped off the pace and Wood and Heskett's improved. And there was a big margin back then and a vastly different list. It could get a little bit scary for Broadford, but the important thing is they just have to hit the scoreboard, and I think a goal a quarter would be fantastic for them.
Yeah, if they can do that and just work within their game plan and their structure and work to get the KPIs that they want to set. Obviously, it is hard when they are on the end of big losses every week, but they'd still have goals, and it's about ticking them off every week.
Exactly right. Another important game, Riddle v Sunbury Kangaroos. To say this is a massive game for the Kangaroos is an understatement. It
is. Obviously, if Kangaroos want to play finals, they need to knock off a side such as Riddle. So it's going to be a tough ask. Both sides played really well last week, but Riddle's starting to build. We always say they start slowly. They were 0-3, they're now 3-0, and had their best performance of the season last week. So obviously you've got that, where the Sunbury Kangaroos probably had their best performance of the week. You say probably if they had got the win against Wallen, that would have probably been their best performance, but they were dominant last week. You had Burjo kick 8, they had quite a few players back in the side, so they're getting those players back in. It's going to add to them and add that little bit more depth. I think Riddle will be too strong, but wouldn't surprise me if Sunbury pushed them all the way. Yeah,
exactly. I hear so much hype around Dylan Tarkson, and I know he's an outstanding player from all reports and given his history. I just can't wait for the game he really unleashes. He showed some great signs of brilliance last week. I know he finished the game on the bench, I think, from memory. But if he's fully fit and fully firing, this could be the game where he can make it his own. I'd love to see him sort of slot into the midfield for even a quarter or two and really start carving it up.
Well, I think on the weekend he did mix it up a little bit in the midfield and forward, so he can do it at both ends of the ground. I think I saw him kick 5 or 6 when he played for East Sunbury a few years ago, so he can absolutely dominate a game like that, but at the same time he's playing his role. So you look of their pre-season recruits, you have Paul Sailberg's another one who came back, and he absolutely dominated last week. So he's playing his role, and yes, maybe save those brilliance for later in the season when he really needs them. If Riddle are getting over the line, he's playing this role, that's all you can ask for.
Exactly right. Another do or die game. We've got Macedon playing host to Romsey. They need a scalp as well.
They do. They want to stay in the finals mix. They definitely do. You've obviously got a Macedon side who it's been a little bit hard to get a read of.
Yeah,
it
is.
They haven't beaten the big sides like your Rupert's Wood and your Diggers Rest, but they're doing what they need to do. So for them, it's more about being right at the other end of the season. So they'd be probably disappointed with those couple losses, but they weren't completely out of those games. So, look, I think Macedon will get over the line, but Romsey needs to play a lot better than they did last week. Last week I was disappointed. It's the first time I've seen them this season, and I expected a lot more.
I'm with you. The first time I saw them, and there was potential in that list, but they're almost a bit of a shadow of where they were last year, which is a shame because they do have such quality in their lineup.
And I think last season they started so well, so they managed to get the scalps of Diggers Rest and Rupert early last season, where they haven't been able to do that this year, and I think that's been the difference. So they've struggled against those better sides. Unfortunately, obviously we saw the last week to Riddle. Rupert's Wood was another one they've struggled. So it might show that the gap between them and the top sides has actually grown a little bit.
I'm going to throw a name out there to watch for in the future. Keep an eye out on young Matty Hoy, the younger brother of Nathan over at Romsey. He was outstanding in the under-19s for Romsey against Riddle on the weekend, and while they, unfortunately for them, they also lost by a heavy margin. Matt is a quality player. Love the way he goes, pushes forward, quality player in the ruck. I'm picturing him to be a young player that stands out in the future. So I'm just throwing him out there. If those haven't recognised him, he will be a star of the future. I think it's his first year at the club as well. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how he comes on.
Yeah, they've got a lot of young talent down there. I think it was the first time I think I've probably seen Jack O'Sullivan since the grand final a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So, and he looked really good and he really stood out for them. So they've got a lot of young talent there, and they're all coming through. Most of them are in the same age group. So if they get that group to stick together, look out in a couple of years' time.
Exactly right. And the final game, we've got Rockbank and Diggers Rest.
Look, obviously Diggers Rest are going to want to bounce back. They'd be disappointed to drop a game against Wood and Heskett like that. So we haven't seen many losses for Diggers Rest in the last couple of years, and when they have lost, they've normally come against those top sides. So it was a little bit of an upset, but they were in the game all day. So it was only when Wood and Heskett kicked the last couple of goals that they sealed the win. So they could have quite easily got the win there. They could have quite easily got the win against Rupertswood as well. So you look at that, then they've won all their games, but they've dropped a couple and people go, oh, is there concerns at Diggers Rest? I don't think so yet.
No, not at all.
I don't think so. I think they're another side looking for later in the season. They've got a lot of talent. It's about getting them all in the park at the same time. And look, I think they were looking to put a few guys back through the reserves to get them fitness and then push into the senior side. So, look, I think Diggers Rest will be too strong here.
Yeah, and I think Diggers is one of those sides where they could finish 5th or 6th at the end of the home and away series, and they can go on and win the premiership. That's just what they are. That's just the quality of talent. They are final specialists. So it's they won't want to finish that. They're probably aiming for sort of top 4, and that'd be good for them.
Yeah, and I don't think any side would want to play them if they finish 5th or 6th. Come
no
on.
way.
You've got a lot of experienced players, a lot of premiership players in that side that can do a lot come that time of the year.
Exactly right. Well, Tara, thanks so much for you jumping on board, and all the support of Star Weekly and On-Time Delivery Solutions. This has been the RDFNL preview for the big upcoming weekend, and we look forward to catching up with you next week.
Thanks for having me.